Okay, I just ended up restarting the VM. I don't know why it has such an issue caching stuff after I deleted the cache and I used incognito and everything. But anyway, this is basically what we're going to be building tonight. I'm going to be centering these things as well. You don't have to have it look exactly like this, but I'm going to show you how to do these nice, beautiful rounded edges that make it look more like something you would see on Apple, on a Mac. We're going to basically be using a lot of the same stuff that we had in that sign in page that I demoed for you in the last video. But when we actually put in some stuff here, some completely made up information using a very insecure password, which we will address at a later point. We're going to be doing a lot tonight, building the sign up page. So we'll get to more security and keep adding on to that in an incremental fashion. When we register, I have this dummy page set up here in the sign up helper. Just to show what the username is. So this looks like a whole mess of all kinds of PHP stuff that you guys are unfamiliar with, but it's actually a good place to start. Here's that require keyword again, that import statement. What it's importing here is this database handler. So that was another one of those things that I gave you. Yours will look different. I don't know what your what your password is, so it's blank. The username that's in there is not phpMyAdmin, which you need to change. I believe it's CS230, because I don't know what name you gave everything. But if you're using the default stuff, use phpMyAdmin. And if you use the same password that I used, it'll go right there in the DB pass. So these light blue colored items right here are variables. This is how you define a variable in PHP. You start it with a $sign that indicates to PHP this is a variable. You close out every single one of these lines here with a semicolon. If you're familiar with Java or C, this shouldn't be any issue with you, which is all of you based on the demographics of the survey you guys took at the beginning of the semester. What's going on right here is these are all parameters that are going to be passed in to connect whatever page is going to call this DB handler. We're specifically going to be calling this connection variable right here that is basically storing the connection to our database. And then from that connection to our CS230 database, if you name your database something different, you want to change that there as well. It's making a connection to the database. And then from there, we'll use that connection variable to look into particular tables, to make additions, to do insertions and updates and all kinds of things. And then if the connection fails, basically this dies and it says connection fails. So the CSS page that I gave you guys here, the sign up CSS page, these are things that will kind of get you that look that I provided. A lot of people had issues with centering stuff. For the background image, you guys are not going to have the same background image that I have. So you're going to want to change that. This kind of thing, this background image, that's like a basic asset for our website. It's not specific to profile pictures. It's not specific to our gallery, which we'll be making later on. So that will all go within the images folder. Now you might say, well, why is there this ... before that? Well, if you've used Bash more than just like the last lab or so, you know that if you've CD'd or changed directoried into a different folder, you'll use cd ... and then potentially a / to whatever directory you want to go to or what have you, and that will take you. It's basically directory navigation and moving in and out of directories. So ... makes you go up one directory. So if we were in, for example, our CSS folder, what this will do is it'll go out of that CSS folder, it'll go into images, and then it will look for this file name, which I happen to have in my images folder, which is right here, main-bg-2.jpg. So all of this stuff is the background image. Occasionally, if your image is smaller than the screen size, then it will repeat the image over and over again in like a wallpaper kind of fashion. I find that to be annoying. I just grab a image that is sufficiently big enough in resolution. What is sufficiently big enough? Well, it depends. But normally something in the range of 2K or 4K, that will do the job. And then the stuff just centers it. It allows scrolling if there's more elements than fit in just one single page. It allows for scrolling. This would also apply to a mobile kind of environment. The container that's going to hold our sign-up page, that is going to take up only 50% of the page. And then within there is all this content that's going to be centered using a combination of these things. We use justify content a little bit. At least some people who messaged me, I know for sure. I don't believe I used it last time when we were making the about page. This flex thing is something new. What used to happen is you used to have content that would just float around in the page space. And Flex basically took over that. I can't tell you when it took over, but it did. And then some of this stuff is just for the background color. So if we go back here, so this is the background page. Let me just see what else is different. Text align center, so all the elements in the text are centered. Yeah. And then the margin between these guys here is 10 pixels. So on the bottom only. So, and then the padding is that element. So the center me object, whatever that is when we make it, it's going to be 40 pixels all around. So that's probably going to contain our actual sign-up form. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go into our sign-up form. I'm going to open up this folder here. And I may have to shut down the VM now that I'm done showing you guys what's going to happen. But between now and then, we'll get some more work done on this. So we're going to be doing a number of modifications to this, but we're going to be working with forms a number of times actually throughout the semester. So this is just like your basic Bootstrap image, and I'm just going to delete this guy right here because I don't like it and I don't need it. If you want to have an image, you can put that, you can leave that in there and just assign it a new path to a different image. But we're going to be using this form and form sign-in class. Not sign-in, but we'll have there's actually like a regular form class that we'll be using. So we're going to make a slight modification to that. We also want to link in the main section above our form to our CSS page. So we're going to create a link. Rel is going to be style sheet. And the href for that is going to be ... // CSS / signup.css. This is assuming you use the one that I provided to you. You do not have to. You're welcome to define your own, in which case you'll put your own in there. But I already gave you a bunch of stuff that makes it look nice and pretty. We're going to be focusing on building out the actual skeleton of it and also doing some of the back-end business logic stuff this lab, which is why I provide you guys the CSS. In future labs, that may not be the case, or I may only provide a small portion of it, depending on how much is required. So one of the classes that I made in that CSS page right here is this background cover. Now, I want you guys to have a background cover. The reason is not because I'm particularly married to the idea, but because I want you to get some experience with using images for more than just little icons and little profile picture kind of things, and manipulating the background. So after this style sheet, we're going to create another div. And I'm going to close it out. You may find that it's easier, like we did with the index.html, to make an HTML file. You'll get some of the code completion that way. I'm going to be doing it all in here because it's not terrible. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to be copying and pasting. So the class for this is going to be my background-cover. Now, I don't have this image right here. However, I'm going to make it. I'm going to find meme background. Why not? That's about 2K. That's pretty neat. First try. I'm going to save Rainbow He-Man. And that's going to be main-bg-2, I think. Is that what I had it as? main-bg-2.jpg. So I may have to change that. Yeah, that's fine. I'll just remove the E. And that's going to go in my CS230 images folder. All right, cool. Got my background image. I'm going to go in here in the CSS, in the signup.css, and I'm just going to change the name ever so slightly to correspond to what I actually have. So let's see. I'm going to close out of this header for right now. We're going to leave it as is. And yeah, I'll leave that open because that'll be helpful for just referencing. All right, so I've got this background cover. Inside of the background cover, I'm going to build this container class, and this container is going to take up a full 100% of the height, and it's going to be centered. So what's going to happen is I'm going to make another div. And this is pretty much what it's going to be like the entire semester, is going to be us making divs in this Russian doll situation. So what I'm doing here is this H100 means that this class, this div, is going to take up 100% of the space on the web page. It's going to be a container class, and it's going to also be center me, which is center dash me, which is what I defined. It's a class that I defined. I'm going to close that guy out. And I'm going to put a closing div right here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to format the HTML and the PHP so you can kind of see the divisions a little bit better. All right, so within here, I'm going to get another div class, and it's going to be myauto. that's neat. Okay, so if you just type in div without the tag part, it will auto-populate that for you, which is handy. So the class for this guy is going to be my, and whenever you see m and then my or mx, that is margin, and it assigns it a particular value. I believe it's auto, something like that. But this helps you in centering stuff along the y-axis. The vertical axis is the hardest to do for some reason. With the horizontal axis, you can usually just do justify content center and then text center or something like that. Whatever it is with the text, I forget off the top of my head right now, and it's late as of the time that I'm filming it. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move this here form bit right in here, and we're going to sandwich it between the opening and closing tags of the my auto, and then we're going to format the HTML and the PHP like that. All right. So instead of form sign in, it's going to be form sign up, which sounds like a very trivial difference. Oh, I'm sorry. Sign up dash form. And that is based on this guy right here. That is based on my class that I made. Sign up dash form. That's something that I'll do, and you'll see that throughout the semester, is I may swap words around so that I know what's mine and what's Bootstrap's. And then occasionally, sometimes I'll just be lazy and I won't do it at all. Like with container, for example, I'm not going to rename it. And there's nothing to swap around in that case anyway. So for all these forms, we need to have some kind of action. We need to have something that it actually does. So the way we do that is we have this, sorry. Oops. This is actually going to be a div. My bad. The class is going to be a div, and then the action is going to go in here. My bad. Sorry. So this div is going to be like that. And I'm going to move that class with that form in there. Like that. I'm going to move our form inside this div. And now I'm going to format the PHP. All right, neat. So I'm just going to give myself a little space so I can see the form. I'm also going to increase the size of this. I can tell already that that's going to be a problem for students. All right, that should be better. All right, so what's going to happen now is we're going to assign an action to our form, to this form right here. And what this action attribute does, more or less, is it calls on a particular page, our PHP page. Right here, our signup dash helper dot PHP. And the last crucial thing is this method equals, in quotes, the word post. So what this does is it makes our form into a submission. I don't really care about this. We're going to change the copyright to 2020 dash. Anyone know how to make the infinity symbol on there? 99999. Big time copyright. Anyway, the post allows us to actually submit all the data that we actually input into these fields here. And it will send it to the database after we put some of the business logic in there. So what's going to happen is we are going to start making some stuff here. Please, instead of sign in, it's going to be sign up. And I'm going to reload this. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to restart. That's fine, even though it's not. Okay, as you can see, everything is up and running so far. We've got a border radius applied here, which I'll go back here to signup.css. Where is the border radius? Right here, 50 pixels. This is what you do to curve the corners on your square divs. Because at the end of the day, the sign-up form is effectively just a div right here. All right. So what we're going to start adding is a bunch of these input fields, right? So we've already got a password. We're actually going to duplicate this. Because again, this is our sign-up field, our sign-up form. And it's going to be confirm password in here. Confirm password for the placeholder. And we are actually going to use some things to indicate to our PHP what we're going to be grabbing when we send it, when we use that post, when we click the send button. So this is the submit button. I'm actually going to make it danger because I like red. And it's going to be the button outline. Let's see. And dash outline, I believe is what it is. btn dash outline dash danger primary, whatever. You can redefine what that is. You can also change it in your CSS file as well, or you can change it here. You can change the color using a style segment. So the type needs to be submit, and we're also going to add these attributes called name. And that's going to allow us to use those as like identifiers basically for those particular input fields and what goes into them. All right, so we have our confirm password, we have our email address, we have, please sign up, right? Yeah, please sign up. Right there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a form group after this H2, or sorry, this H1 rather. And we're also going to create a little p tag right here. And that is going to have a class of hint text, which is another bootstrap class that they define. And this is going to give you like that kind of grayish, like faded look. And it's going to be create your account, an exclamation mark. And then what we're going to have is what's called a form group. So a form group allows you to kind of block a bunch of these input fields together, and they'll kind of just it's just what we use to group these form elements together. So oops. All right, so this is going to be another div. And the class is going to be form-group. And inside of there is going to be another div. This class is going to be row, which we had a little bit of experience with last week. And inside of this row is going to be a column. And this is where our first and last name is going to be. So this is how we make them side by side in the same row. So we're gonna use another div in here, and this class is going to be call. It's going to be call in double quotes. Call. All these class names are in double quotes. Don't forget that. All right, and what's going to happen is we're going to take an input. None of these is particularly great, but the email one will work. After we get one of these calls, we're going to copy and paste. The label is not for input email. I don't actually need a label for these. I'm going to take away the label. Simplify it. The input type is not going to be email, which checks for an @ symbol. It's going to be text. The input ID is unnecessary. We are just going to eliminate the ID portion. And the class is going to be form control. The placeholder is going to be first name. It is in fact required, so we're going to leave that there. And I'm just going to move autofocus so everything's all on the same line. And we'll add the names in just a sec. I'm going to format the HTML and the PHP like this, so everything looks nice and pretty. And then we're going to copy and paste this. Everything from this div call right here to the closing div for the call, for that column. And this is going to be not first name, but last name. All right, cool. We are going to have another form group. Let's see how this looks right now. That looks pretty good. We're not going to do another form group if we don't have to. What we're going to do is we're going to have another input type equals text. So we're going to copy one of these guys. Any one will do. Just the input type for right now. And we're going to need the username, and that should be it. So you can put some spaces between these guys. It's not going to matter. It'll just make it a little bit easier for you to see. All right. I'm going to do away with this checkbox. That doesn't do anything. Okay, cool. And this one is not going to be last name right here. This is going to be username. All right. So now when I refresh this, that looks pretty good. All right. So now, in order for us to access anything for our backend, we need to put what's called a name on these. We need to name each of these input fields. I generally just put it after the class, which is not where it was. Name equals, and then double quotes. And what we're going to do is we're just going to copy and paste this into every one of these input fields right after the class. And we'll fill in some appropriate looking names for those in just a sec. And you're going to do it as well to the button, which is something we haven't really touched other than I made it a danger and an outline one, which I didn't really highlight, but it looks kind of neat. Just like a nice clean red line, a little red border, and that's it. And there we go. Got that right there. Yep, okay, cool. So this name right here for the first name is going to be fname. I'm going to generally try and use the same names here as will be the variables, and this will just help me keep everything straight. L name for the last name. Let's see. Uname here for the username. Email for the email address. And this is going to be pwd. And then this is going to be con-pwd. And then the submit right here is going to be sign up, all one word, dash submit. And every one of our forms will have this format, whatever the name of the page is, dash submit. Okay. There we go. That looks pretty good so far. I'm going to stop this video here, and we'll move on to the business logic, which is going to actually be sending it to our database.